It's 6 p.m. and I'm calling to order the June 10th, 2025 meeting of the South Granville Water and Sewer Authority Board of Directors. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. Thank you for showing up. And with that, we'll have a roll call.
Commissioner Gooch.
Present.
Commissioner Kaczynski.
Present.
Commissioner McLeod.
Present.
Commissioner Karen.
Present.
Commissioner Way.
Present.
Commissioner, Councilperson is not with us this evening. And Councilperson Daniels.
Here.
All are accounted for.
Thank you. And now we'll go to our invocation with our Vice Chair.
Please pray with me. Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us here safely. Thank you for this wonderful weather, and guide us in the decisions we make tonight, that we will do the best we can for the people we represent. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Commissioner McLeod will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
We will not. We don't have a flag.
Our flag. Oh, wow. We'll just pretend like this one. Okay. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
That's happened before, but it was after. No, we're not there yet.
Did we use it for the butler chicken picking and not put it
That's
back?
what I'm wondering.
That's why Judy's not.
All right.
She left it.
Are there any adjustments to the agenda? Hearing no adjustments, call for approval of the agenda. All those in favor?
Make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion.
I have a second to the motion.
We have a second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed likewise. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Got ahead of myself there, folks. Sorry about that. Review of our minutes and approval of our minutes. Has everyone had time to go over the minutes from last month's meeting? And if so, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed likewise. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Public comments. Do we have any?
We don't have any.
We don't have any tonight. Okay, thank you. For discussion items, I believe Vice Chair has some discussion items for us tonight.
So everybody has now read in all the newspapers and social media and everything about the water test results in Creedmoor, with the iron and manganese levels showing up at, I believe they're trace levels is what I will call them. But I would like to hear SGWASA's. I know that there was some public press release about the water, the lead in the iron and the manganese in the water, and I'd like to hear from Scott on why there's water and manganese showing up in the Creedmoor water.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. And I've asked the Assistant Executive Director, Chris Summerlin, to present and provide some information to us. And Chris, if you would come forward, please. And Chris has information on the 3 topics under your discussion items this evening.
All right, good afternoon. So some recent water tests were done by the City of Creedmoor, and they've indicated higher values of iron and manganese at the fire hydrants that they tested. And I wanted to go through some specifics on what iron, manganese, MCLs, which is a maximum contaminant level, and what secondary MCLs or SCMLs are. Iron is a naturally occurring mineral that can be found in water, often due to the interaction of water with soil and rocks. Iron is not generally considered to be a health concern in water, but can cause some aesthetic issues like metallic taste, discoloration, and staining. Manganese is also a naturally occurring mineral that can naturally dissolve into groundwater as it moves through soil and rock. Manganese can cause aesthetic issues such as metallic taste, discoloration, and staining. So what is an MCL? A maximum contaminant level. This is the highest permissible level of a substance in drinking water that is legally enforceable under the Safe Drinking Water Act. And likewise, what is a secondary MCL? This is a non-enforceable guideline established by the EPA for contaminants in drinking water that can cause cosmetic or aesthetic effects like taste, odor, and color. They are different than MCLs because they are not legally enforceable and do not focus on health effects like MCLs do. So what are the enforceable values for iron and manganese? Neither iron or manganese have MCL values or maximum contaminant levels, but do have secondary MCL values. Now, this does not mean that SGWASA isn't concerned about them, but does mean that they are more aesthetic concerns than enforceable water quality values. The secondary MCL for iron is 0.30 milligrams per liter, and the secondary MCL for manganese is 0.05 milligrams per liter. The copy of the newest consumer confidence report that SGWASA puts out for 2024, it will be published soon. But the values for iron leaving the water treatment plant are 0.118 milligrams per liter, well below the secondary MCL, and manganese is 0.012 milligrams per liter, also well below the secondary MCL. I want to ensure the board that SGWASA is well aware of the test values in Creedmoor being higher than the secondary MCL, and we're taking this very seriously. Traditionally, when we see higher values in the distribution system for iron and manganese, the response has been to flush an area to get lower values. This has previously worked, but as you saw with the latest round of water tests done by the city of Creedmoor, flushing did not bring these values to below the secondary MCL. I cannot say with confidence that the flushing that was done at the locations was exactly the same protocol that SGWASA would have followed, meaning length of time, number of gallons per minute flushed, stuff like that, because we were not part of the water test. But I can say that we are looking into these concerns and keeping customers in mind. So what are we at SGWASA doing about this? We have partnered with Hazen and Sawyer to take a look into this and give us recommendations on: one, what kind of things can contribute to higher iron and manganese values in the distribution system? Two, what can be done to lower the values we are seeing in the distribution system? Three, we are developing a flushing program and a distribution model with Hazen and Sawyer that will tie directly into this and hopefully give us a path forward and further enhancing water quality. Fourth, you will also see in the proposed budget tonight that we are asking for 2 utility maintenance mechanics that will focus on flushing, fire hydrant maintenance, and other things that can help improve water quality. I encourage you to consider these positions in your vote tonight on the budget as a good proactive step towards improving water quality throughout our service area. Just like that hot water anode rod issue that was brought to our attention, we want to ensure that we have the best information and best available answers. So we felt that partnering with Hazen and Sawyer was the correct approach for getting to the bottom of this and developing a mitigation program. Also know that older pipes and infrastructure could possibly be a contributing factor for higher values of iron and manganese, and we have infrastructure in the ground in places that's from the 1930s and 1940s. Understanding the assets that we have are part of our AIA program, and we have another engineering firm working on for us, as well as inputting this information into the distribution model we're developing with Hazen and Sawyer. This will lead to a more robust program for coming up with CIP projects related to replacing old infrastructure.
So if flushing is so important, and that seems to be SGWASA's position on keeping this water numbers low going forward, and that the flushing method that's being used by PACE and the fire department is in question, then my question is, why is SGWASA not doing more flushing when in December of 24, we sent a letter outlining the contract that showed that SGWASA was supposed to be doing flushing for the last 10 years, and it's not being done. The other thing I will say right now is these two positions that are in this budget, if they are not filled within 3 months, I am going to ask this board to approve outsourcing the flushing to a company until we can have the personnel to do the job, because the citizens of Creedmoor deserve the clean water quality that they've been promised, and they're not getting it. They don't believe they're getting it. There's no way I can convince them that they're getting it. We can tell them this is not dangerous. It doesn't matter. If flushing these lines is the answer, it's SGWASA's responsibility to maintain the flushing on these lines, at least in the city of Creedmoor, so we can have better water quality. That's all I'm going to say on that.
And to that point, that is why we are partnering with Hazen and Sawyer to ensure that we are taking the correct approach by flushing. We want to ensure that although traditionally that is what we have done, we want to ensure that that is the correct approach and there's not something else going on in the system that would potentially cause higher values of iron and manganese. And so we just want to make sure we want another engineering firm to look at this to help us make the best guided decisions for this.
So when you say what it's been done, it hasn't been done. There's been not a actual regular maintenance flushing of the fire hydrants in Creedmoor. There has not been. Has not been in 5 years that I've been on this board. And if it wasn't for the volunteer fire department, there would have been no flushing at all. But it's not being maintained. It's in the contract when we sold the water system to SGWASA that it would be done, which was before Scott. But it hasn't been done. If flushing is the answer, this needs to be done, and it needs to be done now, not waiting and waiting. And my question is, wasn't Hazen and Sawyer the people that did the hydraulic model?
So if I may, I'd like to jump into this and answer that question by saying, no, it was not Hazen and Sawyer that did it. It was McGill Associates that developed the first model back in 2021 for us. And they've also developed the sewer model, and all the consultants that we work with are using those models. So they will use that model for us. You may recall in 2019, when I came on board, was hired by SGWASA. On a monthly basis, SGWASA was flushing water everywhere, especially in Creedmoor. In fact, the Creedmoor commissioners required a board report every month as far as all the hydrants that were flushed and their values. And we did that. We did that for many months, many months. We provided that report. And I asked the question one day, why are we doing all this flushing? And I didn't get a good answer as to why we're doing the flushing where we were. It was simply complaint-based. And I said, well, until we figure out exactly why we're doing this flushing and understanding what values we're going for, I think we just need to pause the flushing and understand better how to do this maintenance management throughout the system. And that model led to an improvement that we just did at the Creedmoor, at the Lake Road Booster Station that you're aware of as well, being proactive in terms of the flushing program. One of the things that has not been developed is a formal flushing program in SGWASA, and that's something that we've wanted to address the last couple of years. We do flush hydrants. We do cooperate with the fire departments to flush those hydrants. We do that. We don't have a good program established to flush all the hydrants and maintain all the hydrants throughout all the communities that we serve. And that's something that we're promoting in this budget that you have in front of you this evening as well. We think it's important. It's very important. There's been some other priorities in the last couple of budget years as well for some operators at our water plant, our wastewater plant, for our staffing. We recognize that we need to do a better job. And that's basically what we have in front of the board here as well. I do not want the board or the public to think that flushing is the silver bullet to the problem here. And that's one reason why we're taking this approach to look at samples throughout the entire distribution network, which we've done in the last week or so. And I think it's important to note that a footnote to the Creedmoor testing that you're doing 5 samples at a time on hydrants. These samples that you've taken so far are not indicative of the entire distribution network with the city of Creedmoor. There's values that are lower that that we have throughout those test values as well. So I don't want to present the idea that we've got elevated manganese or iron levels throughout every distribution pipe within the city of Creedmoor, because that's not the case. But we have old pipes, and we're not sure if there's a causal relationship with the improvement that we just did at the Lake Road Booster Station, where for the first time in 5 years, we started injecting chemicals into the water at that point, as far as chlorine and ammonia, to create the chloramines in the system. And it's interesting that at the same time that we're standing up this plant or this facility, this booster station, is the same time that Creedmoor begins testing the lines as well, and the main line. So we're not saying that there is a causal relationship or correlation at this point with that, but that's one of the things that we want to understand. Is it a combination of factors? Is it something specific to that distribution network? Is it the old pipes? Is it just plastic pipes, cast iron pipes, those type of things? So we will get to the answers and get those levels down. We'll also, with the board's help, increase our flushing program to do a better program, to stay on top of it, if you will, and figure out what we need to do here to maintain our water quality at or below the MCLs or the secondary MCLs that we have out there throughout the entire distribution network.
It's just that throughout all this testing, SGWASA's position has been, you've got to flush them before you test them. You've got to flush them before you test them. And we're doing that.
Let me correct you on that. It's not SGWASA's position. It's the protocol that the state sets forward.
That's fine, but I'm talking about the letters and the emails we've received from SGWASA and the conversations that we've had. I don't talk to anybody else but them. So I just want to make sure that if flushing is the answer, we're doing it. If flushing is not the answer, we find it. And I appreciate the fact that you have reached out to our engineering staff, and I hope that they will have an answer for us soon.
Thank you.
Okay. So we know when it leaves the water treatment plant, it's way below any levels. So between here and Creedmoor, it's picking up.
Right. And to Scott's point, we have taken samples throughout the distribution system to kind of see what it looks like as far as that's concerned. We're processing that data. We're providing that to Hayes and Sawyer, and we will get answers from this.
Okay. So when you say the distribution system, are you taking samples like we're doing in Creedmoor from other locations within the system itself?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Are you going to make those results available to us as well as soon as you get them?
I can make them, if that's what you want, I can make them available.
I would be interested to see where else in the distribution system is related to what we have going on in Creedmoor. Yes.
Okay.
So the next thing that I wanted to ask about was the engineering standards upgrade project. Commissioner Mims and I, when we got on this board in 2020, had found dead-end piping in some of the cul-de-sacs. And we mentioned to stop the issues that SGWASA was having to face, that we changed the construction requirements to require looped piping, so that dead-end piping is not good. We all know that. And it's been going on for years, and we need to stop it. So 5 years later, I need to know, we've got 2 subdivisions that have been approved in Creedmoor in the last 2 years, and we've got a new subdivision. I think there's one going in Butner.
Yes.
But I need to know, have we enforced the looping, or is there going to be dead-end piping in those drawings?
Sure.
And it's only to stop the bleeding by SGWASA. Because whenever it happens and the water gets mad, they're not going back after the city, they're going back to SGWASA.
Sure, I can speak to that. So at the January 14th SGWASA board meeting, the board voted in favor of updating our standards and details as it relates to design of water and sewer infrastructure. This project has started, and we had a couple of meetings with the engineering firm, CD & Smith. We are currently in process of designing these standards and details and hope to have this information completed by the end of 2025. Now, in 2020, the city of Creedmoor asked for all dead-end pipes and new developments to have auto flushers on them, so the water does not go stagnant inside the distribution line. Currently, with any development project, SGWASA tries to reduce the number of dead-end lines the distribution system has. thus enhancing water flows and enhancing water quality. SGWASA is currently in process of updating our standards and details this upcoming fiscal year, so some version of reducing dead-end lines will be stipulated inside of this document, specifically for any new construction. This will include introduction of auto flushers and the possibility of looping distribution lines on itself so there are no dead ends. Also, for all ongoing construction projects, these comments will also be incorporated, therefore reducing the need for staff to flush these lines manually and increasing the turnover in the water lines at dead ends.
So it's been 5 years and this project is not done. That's the point I'm making.
Well, Commissioner, the project just started in January, and these are board-approved policies that have to be done by the board. Our plans and specs are outdated, and we recognize that. So we've turned to the consultants to upgrade our plans for us. We're working through that. You'll have those plans or those specs in front of you for board approval coming this summer.
So all subdivisions that have been approved by SGWASA since 2020 will not have dead-end piping?
So all approved subdivisions by SGWASA were approved via the policies and the specs that were approved by the board. That's what the engineers follow. Basically, we have an opportunity to sit down with them and say, we'd prefer to do this. We'd like you to loop that. We don't want a dead end over here. The plans and the specs for Brames Crossing were approved back in 2017, 2018. Right. The plans for Mangum Farms 2 were approved back in 2017. We've had an opportunity to work with them recently on phase 2 to work on some engineering through there, but our standards are our standards, and they've not been updated to prevent or say that you can't have dead-end mains, and there is no requirement in there presently that says that you must install auto flushers if you do have a dead-end main.
But I will say with that, even though a development project, the construction plans have been completed, we may not necessarily be able to reduce that specific dead-end main. However, we can go above and beyond the firm that's putting it in, and we can also install auto flushers at each cul-de-sac or each dead-end line, just as they would with the design.
Well, Brames was the first subdivision that came back to us with a modification since I got on the board, and we told them there's 14 cul-de-sacs, we want 14 auto flushers, and they agreed to it. But when it was brought to this board in 2020, my point is, why is it taking so long to get the regulations changed? It's 5 years, and they're not changed. And now we're only going to start working on them now. So that's the question I'm asking.
Well, I don't have a good answer for you, Commissioner, on top of all the other work that we've done in the last 5 years to get us to where we are this evening. I don't have an answer for you as to why we didn't start 3 years ago on these plans and specs.
But the biggest complaint that SGWASA faces, and all of us on this board face, is water quality issues.
But it's not dead-end piping and auto flushers. We're working on that, Commissioner. I'm sorry that you don't like the schedule that we're on. We think that we are positioned presently, based on this I-85 project and the growth that we have in front of us, that now is the time to get these plans and specs updated to meet our current needs, and that's what we're working on. So I apologize they weren't done 5 years ago, but we're working on them now to get them done, and they will be done, and then we will have them in place for all the construction that's going to occur 3 years from now based on the I-85 project being finished. So I think we're still well within the window to have these plans and specs approved and updated to meet the construction needs of the organization, to meet the water quality that we're looking for, so that we don't have the dead-end lines around the cul-de-sacs or the other cities. Now, that doesn't fix all the construction that was done in the last 50 years as well, which is still a problem. It's still something that we have to address, and we're going to look at that as well. And that may be some additional construction, some capital improvement to loop those lines as well, to work on water quality. So the goal is to get there. These are all pieces, parts to help us get to better water quality, whether it be disinfection byproducts improvements, $15 million at the water plant, whether it's a $200,000 upgrade at the Creedmoor booster station, all the other upgrades that we're doing to our system here. It's all part of what we're doing as far as our continuous improvement approach. So That's where we are in that project.
And when something is permitted through the state, once it's permitted, we don't have the ability to go back and make comments as needed. So if it was permitted previously, we can't change the design of it. However, we can incorporate our stuff above and beyond what the design shows. So that's where we are.
So Creedmoor Village should have.
Creedmoor Village has not been approved.
Okay.
It has not been approved to my knowledge as far as design.
No, but I want you to know that all the developers that we're working with, we are telling them that the standards are being changed as we speak. So just be aware of this, that when these plans are approved or these specs are approved, these policies by the board, that's what you're going to be following for your design. So we're making them well aware of that at this point as well. So
how's the filter media replacement project going?
All right, I can speak to that as well. 2002, the water treatment plant in Butler had some upgrades completed, including change out of the filter media material that filters impurities from the finished water. We've also teamed up with Hazen and Sawyer for this to create a bid package for media replacement, including nozzle replacement underneath the media. The front end documents have been created for this and are in review from our representing law firm. Once these documents have been reviewed and finalized, SGWASA will move forward with bidding this project out. We are hopeful that this process will be successful in the first bid, and we will be under contract with the company soon for this media replacement. So do y'all want a visual of what the filter media looks like?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Crystal, do you mind pulling up the PDF document first? So this was, this first document was something Hazen and Sawyer created for us. So if you can go to about the third page, I think it is. Actually, you can stop right there. So inside of the water treatment plant, if you can see the darker areas, the rectangular areas, that's what the filter beds look like inside of our room, okay? If you can go to the next slide, I think it'd be helpful. On the bottom right of that drawing right there, that's actually what the filter media looks like. So it's got nozzles underneath it. So the filter media sits inside of a concrete basin. It's got nozzles underneath it to help wash out the impurities that are captured in the filter media. And then you have levels of anthracite, sand, stuff like that. That's how that filter media is built. And also, I'll provide a couple pictures for you to see what it looks like inside of the water treatment plant. So this first picture is a picture of the filter bed itself. So all that media and those nozzles lie within that basin right there. And if you'll notice that door, what that means is all this stuff is inside of the building. There's the next page kind of just gives next picture actually just shows it overall, but this is inside of a building. So as we're designing this, bidding it out, this will be a constraint. This stuff is actually inside the building. So let's see. As you can see, these filter beds are inside of a room, inside of the water treatment plant, and this room sits between the operator stations and the settling basins. This means that a company has to come out with a vacuum-type truck and vacuum the basins inside of this room, and then go through the process of rebuilding the media. We're only going to pull down one basin out of service at a time to allow for the maximum number of filters to be in service for optimal water quality coming out of the water treatment plant. We anticipate that this process will take 1 to 2 weeks per basin, depending on what is encountered, and getting the water to pass a bacteriological test after this. Once the first basin has been completed, then we will go on to basin 2, 3, and then depending upon the schedule that we're on, we might be able to pull 4 and 5 down at the same time. So does that answer your question?
So I've been in this building and I've seen these basins up close and personal.
Mm-hmm.
They're old.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to be able to handle this?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I'm concerned about the cement cracking and then.
And all that will be addressed at the time that we pull down each basin. So when they pull down each basin and start vacuuming out the material, the nozzles will be addressed. Any kind of concrete structural issues will be addressed at that time.
So we won't know the cost of that until after we start doing that. It's way past the design phase.
So right now, as it stands, we anticipate nozzle replacement, media replacement, and I think it was a contingency on top of that to pay for other things that we encounter. We anticipate it would be somewhere between $500,000 and $600,000 at this time, depending upon the structure and what it looks like. It could be up or down from that.
Okay.
So this project isn't just the filter media replacement. You're pulling the anthracite and the sand, everything out.
Anthracite and sand is considered the filter media.
Okay.
Okay. You have filter media. You have the nozzles underneath it. So when you do a backwash of the filter, water comes up through those nozzles. All of the nozzles will be addressed and replaced at that time as well. The concrete the basins are made of, everything will be assessed in the basin, and we will address any kind of issues at that time.
I know that. I think years ago we used to call it rebedding the filters when you replace the sand. There were times when we replaced the anthracite, just cut the bag open, dumped it over in there.
Yes, sir.
So, and that wasn't considered media replacement or
It's basically rebuilding your bed to what it had been at a certain point. And
these will be pretty much like new when you finish, right? As far as the filter.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It will be new, enhanced water quality, and going forward, we will put this on the CIP program. So we plan to address this probably, if I had to guess, 8 to 10 years, every 8 to 10 years, we will address it in some form or fashion. It may be that basins 1 and 2 are fixed, this year and so on and so forth. But we will do it in a staged approach instead of all at one time.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Okay. Is there anything else on this? All right, then we'll move on to item 9, our budget amendment. And our finance director, Richard Ballmer, is coming up to address this. And this is our final budget amendment for the year.
God.
But next month starts a new year.
Certainly hope so. There's 3 things. This is a comprehensive budget amendment, the last one for the fiscal year. There's 3 kind of categories in here. There's the normal budget amendments, meaning we need more budget for certain expenses. There's the year-end ones, which is when we just realign. Some departments may have overtime and excess salaries in other departments. So we realign things like benefits, and we record any accruals that might be needed for the audit. And the third category are the budget amendments that fall within the executive director's authority that have been approved internally during the last quarter. The Finance Committee advised that they would like to see these added to the quarterly financial report. So next fiscal year, I'll start putting those. They'll come out of the true budget amendment, and they'll be part of the slides for the financial presentation. But we didn't get that in place for this year, so I wanted to include them in here to advise the board of which ones will be done. I won't read it verbatim because it's kind of lengthy, but we'll put all the highlights in any questions we can answer independently. Budget amendment number 16 is the final one for the year. It increases revenue budget to align with the current year-to-date projections, and we'll touch on that in a little more depth in a minute. We're increasing water revenue, sewer revenue, and interest revenue, along with a few smaller non-billing revenue items. We're realigning the budget within the administration department for increased electricity costs, billing and collections for electricity costs and credit card collection fees, raw water for increased electricity costs, water treatment plant for purchase of lab equipment, utilities, water line, and pump stations. We're realigning some budget for the pump stations for repairs. And the depreciation board other department, we're realigning some budget from software that wasn't purchased to cover some property and liability insurance increases. And then in various departments, we're realigning pay and benefits. This amendment appropriates additional budget from fund balance. For general legal services, appropriates capital improvement fund balance for legal services related to the I-85 sanitary sewer project. It appropriates additional budget for electricity costs of the water plant reservoir and pump and lift stations. It appropriates additional fund balance for amortization and interest expense to ensure compliance with GASB 96. It establishes new budget line items to accommodate year-end supply inventory adjustment rules and appropriates budget in each department accordingly. And then it goes into the internally approved budget amendments. They're on a separate schedule, and there's some of those that are in detail in there. They basically just realign some budget for billing and collections for 2 credit card readers, water treatment plant to replace a refrigerator and ultrasonic bath, wastewater treatment plant to replace a portable pH meter, pressure washer, and portable chemical pump. And then it aligns some budget to do some data retrieval for a failed hard valve at the wastewater plant. You see the table with the previous 15 budget amendments for this fiscal year. They total $13,022,986, of which just under 12.5 million is actual CIP fund balance, about $500,000 of operating fund balance. So the budget amendment itself has increased in water revenues $200,000, sewer revenues $575,000, non-billing revenues $69,500, interest income revenue $975,000, for a total revenue increase of $1,819,500. This increase in administration expense by administration budget by $50,000, decrease in the engineering budget by $36,520, increase in billing and collections by $7,700, increase in raw water supply by $2,500, water treatment plant by $50,000, increase in water line utilities maintenance $70,000, sewer line utility maintenance $25,000, wastewater treatment $25,000, utilities pump stations and towers $40,250. Depreciation board other, $44,520. Projects and studies, $90,000. And it's transferring to fund balance, $1,451,050, for a total expenditures of $1,819,500. There's attachments with all the supporting documentations, all the individual detail. The executive director's recommendation is that the SGWASA board of directors approve budget amendment number 16. And just to highlight some of the supporting documentation, especially the revenue section, the water revenue section increase of $200,000. Most of that, about a third of that increase, is due to the largest customer we have, which is an institution. We have budgeted and used the rate model based on conservation usage that they put in place in 2019. We saw that increase during COVID, but we didn't want to change any projections. We've talked about this in numerous finance committee meetings and budget meetings. But we are still seeing that usage has not declined back to the 2019 levels. So in the budget that you have before you tonight, you'll see that there's also an increase in water and sewer revenue because we now assume that is their new usage trend. So that's about a third of the 200,000. The rest of it is coming from some rather large water leaks. Institutional customers had some rather large water leaks this year. Of course, the board's policy is that we can adjust sewer but not water. And then the other usage is just increased customer base and increased usage among numerous customers. Sewer revenue, $575,000. Almost all of that, essentially all of that, is from that same institutional customer, but it's in 2 chunks. There's sewer usage increase. Again, it never went back to the pre-COVID 2019 conservation measure usage. The largest chunk of that 575 is actually, that institution has a separate water and sewer meter. Sewer usually runs much lower usage than water. But we have seen sewer usage on that meter increase dramatically over the past 12 months. They're having some sort of infiltration problem going into the sewer system, and so that has resulted in a much higher bill. That is not included in your upcoming budget because we anticipate whatever the problem is, they will repair it, and we did not want to budget revenue that's probably not going to occur. Interest income is the other large revenue increase, $975,000. We've talked about that in every quarterly presentation for probably the last 12 months. And that is simply because the feds never did do the rate reductions that they projected to do last year when the budget was passed. Any questions on the budget amendment?
Any questions?
This various pay and benefits section here, is that throughout the year? That's not just the last quarter, that's throughout the whole year?
That's correct.
Okay.
This is to realign everything for the whole year. We basically take money left over from vacancies within different departments and the other departments that may have had overtime that wasn't budgeted, or we realign it to that department so that we don't have any departments that have excess and other departments have deficits. And that's pretty standard every year.
So, Richard, the Lake Rogers pump station that had to be repaired after the pipes froze and burst and all that stuff, that project is closed and closed out? And those monies are represented in this?
That's a good question. In the revenue section,
Uh-huh.
there's an $84,500 budget for other sales and income. We typically don't budget anything in that department because it's miscellaneous little bits and pieces of money. That $84,500 is the insurance proceeds reimbursing us for those damages.
Awesome.
Minus the deductible.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve budget amendment number 16.
Motion to approve budget amendment number 16. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a second in two places. Any questions on the motion? Any discussion?
Nice to put money back in the bank.
And we'll go to the vote then. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed likewise. Ayes have it. Budget amendment 16, final budget amendment for the 24-25 budget year is approved. Thank you. Now we'll go to our proposed fiscal year 25-26 budget review. And I think, Scott, I think you and Richard are going to take this one. Or
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just some background here on this proposed FY 25-26 budget. On April 11th and 25th, earlier this year, SGWASA's Finance Committee held public meetings to review and discuss the proposed fiscal year 25-26 budget as presented by the Executive Director and staff. During the Finance Committee meetings, staff presented a comprehensive review of the proposed budget. This in-depth review enabled committee members to actively contribute to shaping the final draft. At the conclusion of the April 25th, 2025 meeting, the committee unanimously approved the revised budget. Following that approval, staff scheduled the required budget public hearing for the May 13th, 2025 SGWASA board meeting. At that meeting, the South Granville Water and Sewer Authority Board of Directors held the required public hearing. At that same meeting, I provided a detailed overview of the proposed FY 25-26 budget, during which time board members asked questions and offered comments. After this discussion, the Executive Director presented his recommendation for adoption. The board agreed to continue reviewing the proposed budget, but plans to revisit it at the June 10th, 2025 regular meeting, this evening's meeting. Following the May 13th board meeting, the only changes made to the proposed FY 25-26 budget was a human resources topic area wage adjustments as found on page 23 of your agenda. The budget ordinance remains unchanged. I'm happy to review the FY 25-26 budget summary in detail. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
It's all on you.
okay. All right. Guess we're down to
Commissioner Way.
Pardon me?
Commissioner Way.
I was the only one, unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances that could not be here.
Okay.
I've had a chance to review the budget. I am very happy with the fellow members of the board on the Finance Committee. Kudos to y'all for doing that. I'm glad that we're continuing to invest in the people that maintain and work on this system every day. I'm glad that we have an increase, however, just 1%, but it's still good to go in that 401k for our employees. We're still keeping the path to replace equipment that's aging. So overall, I'm happy with what I see here. Most of all, I'm looking forward to those two people to get out there in their pickup trucks and flush hydrants and exercise valves and make sure everything works.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Anyone? Hearing no comments, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the budget, and we have a second. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. There's a recommendation on page 24. I would just want to ensure the board members recognize that the budget also includes a schedule of rates and fees and charges, the organizational chart proposed, and also the classification scale. So if you would care, or I would just like to remind the board that when you say approve the budget, we're also requesting those additional items which are part of this budget package.
Would you like to amend your motion?
I'll amend my motion to include this.
And do we still have a second?
Yes.
We still have a second. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for keeping us straight here. Okay, if there's no discussion on the motion, we'll go to the vote, and this includes the proposed budget book, schedule of rates, fees, and charges, organizational charts, current and proposed, and pay study and position classification schedules, current and proposed. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed likewise. Ayes have it. Motion carries. And now we're to our comments by Executive Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Greatly appreciate it. Again, thank you to the board members this evening for your hard work getting us to this point of passage of our fiscal year 25-26 budget. We greatly appreciate it. Greatly appreciate the Finance Committee and the time that they spent helping us formulate this budget for this year. We look forward to another successful year with many projects and many offerings throughout SGWASA. I'd also like to thank the team members that are here in the audience for your presentations this evening, and also for your help, your assistance with the budget preparation and the agenda. That's all I have for this evening, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments from our attorney?
No comment?
Do you have anything for closed session?
I'm aware of.
No, nothing. Thank you. That's even better. Comments from our board members. Councilperson Vicki Daniels.
I wanted to thank Georgiana for those questions. The responses I learned from Chris were very informational, and I appreciate it. Sometimes you get questions, and sometimes the responses are more helpful to hear how the process works. So I appreciate it. Iron and manganese, to me, years ago, I was taught that it was a seasonal change. The reason sometimes that you get an increase. So I had more clarification tonight, so I appreciate it. And I thank you to the staff for all your hard work. I appreciate it. That's my comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Way.
Mr. Balmer, I just wanted to reach out to the finance department and customer service team. I get a nice email on my phone saying when my bill's due, and I press my little button, and I go right there and I type in what I'm paying, and I pay it, and it's just that simple and quick and easy, and it takes me a matter of less than a minute, and I'm very happy with it.
Thank God.
I wanted to give you a positive comment where I received a few people that just needed some assistance in how they needed to go about it, that I forwarded to you, of course. But I enjoy getting that. It's a great job. And furthermore, Crystal, I cannot say how great of information you're putting out there. Anytime something happens, I get an email, I get a text message. So I know when our crews are working to a break in the system, I know if there's something that's going on that's taking place, I get an email and a text message. So people, please go out there, sign up on the website. You'll get this information. It's instantaneous, and it's very valuable information to have. You'll know what's going on in your community. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Karen is overbooked this evening. He had 2 meetings tonight. He had to leave one to go to another. So, Commissioner McLean.
No comment.
Okay. Vice Chair Commissioner Kaczynski.
I wanted to thank Chris and Scott for their answers to the questions. These are questions that I've been getting and I've read about and I've seen everywhere. I know that this is not an easy topic to discuss because I'm not a scientist, I'm not a chemist, and that's why I'm asking you, because I don't have all the answers to this. I suggested this water testing in the city of Creedmoor to allay the fears of those who kept saying the water was poison, and it's not. It may not be exactly what other people want, but it's not poison. PFAS and we're working on everything. We're working on filters. We're working on getting people to flush the hydrants if that's what it is that we're needed. And we are going to push that these fire hydrants do get flushed regularly in Creedmoor. And I will leave it up to other municipalities to do whatever they have to do too. But I appreciate your answers and your understanding that these are not only my questions. These are coming from others. And I look forward to the day when the noise stops. That's all I got.
Okay, thank
If it ever
you.
comes.
Thank you. And I appreciate our executive director, everything he does, our finance director, our assistant, the entire staff. Everyone has worked hard on this budget. Our budget committee, our budget subcommittee has worked extremely hard on this. And I want to thank you for all that you've done. I want to especially thank Scott for putting together a budget that didn't require a rate increase. That is greatly appreciated. Thank you. And
Richard did that, not Scott.
well, okay. All right. We'll give credit to Richard and everyone. But, I want to thank you all for that. And you did this while keeping us in a good financial position, keeping us in a good position where we have some funds to work on these other projects. We're definitely going to seek grants everywhere we can, but we know that we do have the funds available if we have to use them. And with that, since we don't have any thing for closed session, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I don't think there needs to be any discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed likewise. Ayes have it. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you all.